Rabbi Senator Grassley.
I guess I'm the last person between you and lunch. Mr. Carr, I was very disappointed the FBI didn't immediately recognize the Colleyville attack was a hate crime against Jewish people. Is it correct that many international terrorism movements contain an anti-Semitic ideology? And should the government consider possible hate motives when investigating terrorists?
Thank you, Ranking Member Grassley. You could not be more correct. If you look at those movements today that have as a core defining ideological feature anti-Semitism, those movements are not only threats to Jews, they certainly are that, but they're really threats to America and to civilization. Of course, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, these are movements that are defined through anti-Semitism, and they are deep, profound threats to all of us, which is why fighting Jew hatred is not only about protecting Jews, it really is about championing American values and protecting all of us. You had mentioned in your questioning of Assistant Attorney General Clark exactly this point about the initial FBI statements following the Colleyville crisis. And I think that's a very apt point. You know, training law enforcement, and she mentioned this as well in her answer to you, training law enforcement personnel is very important. Well, again, we have a global standard definition of anti-Semitism, which if we adopted it and used it, could be used to train law enforcement officers, prosecutors, and investigators, which would likely avoid the kind of confusion, let's say, that followed the Colleyville attack. So I think this is really a case in point of how important it is to use a vehicle like the IRA definition of anti-Semitism in training, and not only for law enforcement, by the way, for campuses and university administrators. Universities now have become the front lines in many cases in the battle against Jewish students. And it's very important to use IRA, again, as a tool of education, not of censorship.
Mr. Martinez, understand that you have observed an uptick in hate crimes in Los Angeles, and you're the coordinator there for that sort of investigation. Where are you observing that hate crimes are up most, and who is emboldened to commit those crimes?
Thank you, Ranking Member Grassley. Yeah, so hate crimes are up across the board. When they've been continuously up for the past 5 years, increasing, except for anti-religion, which declined slightly last year because of the pandemic. Our biggest increases percentage-wise would be against the AAPI community in Los Angeles. Our highest numbers are against the Black community in Los Angeles. However, we don't have white nationalists, white supremacists coming into the city. What we have in our urban areas is we have resident on resident committing hate crimes against each other. One of the things I like to point out is our definition of a hate crime would not qualify for federal prosecution. The federal has this very strict standard of the but-for, where it has to be, it wouldn't have happened without the bias motivation. Our state and a lot of states have different classifications. We're usually second. Los Angeles are usually second in the nation to New York every year. And we report our hate crimes as we classify them, not as the federal government would classify them. So when we talk about training, we can't go by federal training for our situation.
Okay. And Rabbi, I won't repeat what everything's been said about your bravery, but it's quite obvious and work to save everybody that was in your congregation. So this simple question, what would you most recommend to other houses of worship to be prepared for the worst?
I would recommend security training. I would recommend, all of us work towards changing our reality. Our current reality is something that we need to work on. I would recommend again, for us, for our successful resolution, we were blessed to have really positive relationships between us and our local police department, which not every community has. We need to work on those relationships. They have been in our building, they knew our situation. The relationship between our local police department and the FBI and our relationship with the FBI was incredibly valuable. To go through those courses, to develop those security action plans, those emergency action plans, which are not just good in terms of hostage situations, they're good in terms of a fire or a tornado or any situation that might be of concern in a house of worship. The increase in the nonprofit security grant program is hugely important. It's hugely needed, especially for smaller congregations like mine, smaller congregations that don't have a dedicated staff person to spend hours and hours and hours going through the bureaucracy and writing the grants. It's very challenging to streamline that process, especially for smaller congregations. There's a number of things that could help, and there's a number of actions that houses of worship can take, as can Congress and our government. But that support between national, state, local governments and our houses of worship, it really means a great deal. We need that communication, that support, that relationship. It matters. It matters a great deal, and it truly, ultimately helped to save our lives.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. This panel has been very